The Plan Do Review is the tool I use at the beginning of each session to identify what has been going well for my clients, what has been challenging, not only to draw their awareness and insight into their relative strengths, but to also give me an idea of how we can play to their strengths to compensate for their challenges. So it gives them a chance to reflect, build insight, and build motivation for how to improve their performance in similar situations moving forward. Typically, the client tells me about something that matters to them. They wouldn't generally comment on issues that didn't really bother them. So this data helps me make my clinical determination of what we should target that day. Once they tell me what their challenges are, I come up with my ideas for how we can target those challenges. And together, we then have a way to negotiate person-centered goals that they are motivated to target and that will have functional, meaningful relevance to their lives and help them feel like they are making gains in their rehabilitation. Let's go through a specific example. One of the best tools for cognitive communication rehabilitation is the Plan Do Review. I wanted to go through it using a functional real world example of how I've helped clients with this tool applied to real world situations. So the first phase is planning. So here we are anticipating problems in advance. We are turning it into an active process by tapping into our long-term memory and asking ourselves, what do I already know about planning trips? So here, my client and I jointly brainstormed. Packing is a big ordeal. You have to remember to pack your electronics, your travel documents. You have to be mindful about the timing. When is the best time to travel and why? Also, planning, how are you going to get there? How long will you be there? How are you going to afford it? How are you going to make sure that you have access to money once you're over there? Don't forget to let your credit card know so that your card isn't canceled while you're over there. You go even more specific by asking, when have I done this activity before? So now we're pulling up a specific example. So in this case, this client recalled a few years ago, she had planned an overseas trip. And having that specific example in mind helps alleviate the cognitive load so that she's not reinventing the wheel. She can simply reflect on how that experience went and keep aspects that went well, identify challenges she had last time so that this time she can hopefully maximize her performance and chance of success. So the challenges that she's had with planning trips before is packing lightly. So this time she was determined that she was only going to pack 7 outfits total. This one here really gets at metacognition. How will thinking of these questions help me with planning to returning to planning a trip? So metacognition, the word meta means that something is about itself. So when we are thinking about the way we think, that is called metacognition. Just like meta communication is communicating or talking about the way in which we communicate. That's what meta means. So metacognition is thinking about your thinking. So my client identified that by using this tool, it will make her brain feel more organized. She won't feel so scatterbrained, and she will have pretty much a checklist to follow to reassure her that she hasn't forgotten anything. Just as important as anticipating challenges is, what do you think will go well? So she thought that having this tool, having planned this out in advance, will make traveling process easier. She thinks the challenging aspects will be keeping things organized, planning things for her mother who was to accompany on the trip, and managing all the small little components and details of all of the tasks required to make the trip happen. We kind of skipped the materials or things. It's not all the sections are going to be applicable to every single task you try, so skip as appropriate. what facts does she need to consider before she gets started? Specifically, are there any safety concerns? So my client was interested in researching how concussion symptoms can be impacted or exacerbated by flying on an airplane. She had to remember to bring any medications that she would need immediately or over the course of the journey. She was concerned about keeping track of her two children while also caring for her mother in a busy airport. So we came up with the idea of potentially an Apple AirTag that they could wear as a necklace or hide in their shoe, or even using a kid leash. And she also identified that she needed to organize transportation. How is she going to get there and back? So the next section or probing question is, what help do I need to make this happen? So we identified an example of a driving service and where that would take them to. We also considered catching a train. Estimating how much time you need to complete a task is a really crucial component of building insight and awareness. You might either anticipate you need, for example, an hour to complete a task, but it actually took you 2 or 3 hours. By guessing in advance and then comparing your actual performance to what your guess was, gives you natural feedback where you can then unpack, why did it take me longer than expected? Conversely, if you anticipate a task is going to take 3 hours and it only takes you 1, it's another opportunity to ask, why was my prediction wrong in this case? So getting at the why were you not correct in your prediction helps clients build insight and further unpack and identify the specific challenges, or conversely, oh, I was way better at this particular thing than I thought because I forgot I've done it before, or I already had this system in place that I had forgotten about. And the last probing question in this planning section is, what steps do I need to take to accomplish my goal? So here I've actually referred to the project chunking guide, which is a different template or tool, which I will make a different video about. The next step of the plan, do, review is do it, execute your plan. The most crucial component of the plan, do, review is the review. And of course, it tends to be the most challenging part of the process, and my clients pretty much never do it unless I force them to. What took you longer than expected? What took you less time than you expected? What mistakes did you make? What parts went well? What parts were difficult to accomplish? And importantly, what would I do differently next time? But equally important, what would I do the same? Don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. You don't have to start from scratch. How can you take what you've already done and tweak it to improve your performance? There's also a space at the end for clients to write down any other thoughts that they have. So this is one functional example of how you can use the plan, do, review applied to real world, big functional tasks that the client has. And so your therapy sessions then become super productive because you're actually helping them tackle things that are on their to-do list, but you're showing them how to implement tools, strategies, and templates, and how to make a habit out of it so that you are approaching tasks in a strategic, systematic, organized way to make sure that you don't miss any details. The risk for making mistakes is minimized. And if you have it written down, it's a quick reference that you can refer to later to either reassure yourself that you haven't missed anything, or as an external memory aid, so that if your poor retrieval robot can't find the book he's looking for, you know where to find that information so that your robot doesn't have to find it. It's just right there in front of you, and you just have to read it. That concludes my little presentation on the plan, do, review. Good luck, and I hope it serves you well.